Okay, so in this third section of Unit 2, we're going to talk about different types of health interventions that kind of bridges or stems off of our PSAs that we did. We're going to look at different community ones, some on a larger scale, and also how our environment influences or can influence certain healthy behavior. Okay, so these are going to be the three different sections. Um, if you look at this place 61, later on, we'll talk about mass media campaigns. So just think about that. I'll refer back to the Place 60 little initiative that was in place with the NFL. But we'll look at some CDC recommendations. We'll look at different types of informational interventions as well as the environment factor. Okay, so with your students, you should be able to have them reflect on like the area they live and how it's impacting their ability to be physically active or not, or if it's going to deter it away. As you can see in the first bullet, most trips are for short, quick errands. Okay, but certain things are going to influence how they get there. So it's going to be distance. Hey, maybe if it's just down the street, they might walk. If it's a little farther, they might choose to ride their bike. There's always going to be like a threshold to where they're going to choose to drive their car, though. Okay, and there's also some factors that lead into that too. We'll get to next. Okay, so when you look at land use mix and density, if something is highly mixed or highly diverse or very dense, that means it has a lot of businesses or a lot of places that these people need to go to on a daily or weekly basis close to their home. Okay, so if you think of those little like villages in New York, right? Every little village or town has uh, a laundromat, a grocery store, maybe a movie theater, um, a drugstore in every single district. Okay, so that would be a highly mixed or diverse land use. Also, they're going to look at how direct their errand or their destination is to their house. So they're going to have to, navigate through all these different roads, or is there going to be one clear path and clear and safe path to their destination? So I put down death to the cul-de-sac because when they first started building new cities, they made these cul-de-sacs, which basically made circles, right? So if you look at it, look like from the topographical view, it looked like a little honeycomb of all these little circles. But what it did is it gave young children like a safe area to play, right? So increased the safety, but it decreased the amount of houses they were able to fill. So what they switched to is a grid pattern. So it was a little more like mesh, right? Streets running perpendicular from each other, or parallel and perpendicular. However, it decreased the safety a lot. Parents started not letting their kids go out and play in the yard and in the street. And then it lowered the ability to have the land be highly mixed unless it was mixed in with the actual neighborhoods. Okay, when they had cul-de-sacs, a lot of times they had these big, well, not big, but long paths that connect all the cul-de-sacs together, and then it led them to, areas of business. Okay, so they could take a safe path, like the bike path on the levee that runs through our campus. And they could take that path all the way to the grocery store on a daily basis. Okay, so when you're trying to get your students to look at their environment, these are one of the things that they need to identify. Is it how close are the things that they want to go, like the park or something, or they want to go do? And then how safe is it? How direct is it? Hey, looking at walkability and bikeability. So think about how your hometown fares with bike paths and safety of like pedestrians, right? If you're riding your bike along, can you get to point A to point B in a safe manner? Do you feel safe? Okay. And then how do you think Stockton fares? All right. I rode my bike from my house to Pacific a couple days ago, and it wasn't probably until like the last, I don't know, 5-7 minutes of the ride that I actually felt kind of safe, just because the bike lanes are so small and the cars weren't following the speed limit probably. But I would say Stockton is not that good. North Stockton is actually making a lot of strides, and Lodi as well. But Central Stockton, where Pacific is, and South Stockton isn't very good at all. Right, so it's decreasing or deterring our young students away from being physically active in that manner. As you can see, neighborhoods that are highly walkable increase the amount of trips people take, um, decreases the car trips, increases their physical activity levels throughout or for the week. Right? And if our students aren't getting the quality PE from classroom teachers like they should, they're going to need the extra minutes um, on a weekly basis. Okay, so also looking at proximity and rec centers. So this could be not just like campus rec centers or gyms, but it'd be something that your young students can have access to. And so like YMCA's or Boys and Girls Clubs, and uh, how close are they to those centers, and how safe and direct is the path to get there. Okay, so you can help your students identify where they are, maybe find a bike path to the different centers, and then you can make goals from there or whatever you want to do with that information. However, proximity shows that it increases people's physical activity levels tremendous amounts. So they said 70 or 80% of new exercisers increase their frequency of exercise since that the Chico State Rec Center, as you see here, opened. Okay, and then 55%, so half of the people or students that were already habitually active, continue or increase their physical activity levels. Okay, so it, it matters a lot that you have close access to things that are going to help you be active. Okay, here are some CDC recommendations. They only use the ones that they found, empirical evidence for. The ones at the bottom, which is insufficient evidence, doesn't mean that it's bad to do. They just didn't find enough evidence for them to recommend it as an organization. Okay. Some things to think about that we're going to talk about next is they recommend community-wide campaigns. Okay, and you can see there's insufficient evidence for mass media campaigns. Okay, one other thing um, that we just talked about is that there needs to be land use policies, the first bullet. So your community has to figure out what's going to be the best way to help keep people active by when they make new communities and plan those communities. Let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six bullets down on the recommended. There needs to be enhanced school-based physical education with health education. So you can't just teach them the info, like it says in the insufficient evidence, and where the last bullet says classroom-based health ed, um, focusing just on information. Okay, so you have to have them experience what they're actually learning. Okay, so the cognitive, and they get to apply the cognitive information. We're going to skip that. Here are the 3 different informational interventions: mass media, community-wide, and point of decision prompts. Okay, so we're going to watch this little 2-minute video real quick. However, on the side, on the right side, you see a poster. This could be mass media, which would mean it might be in like a magazine. Okay, or it could be a point of decision prompt that would be, maybe in a grocery store. Okay, but take a second and see or figure out what it is telling you, okay, and what it wants you to do. Okay, so we see the picture here. right? And then we see the slogan, "Are you pouring on the pounds?" which shows basically soda is turning right into fat as you're drinking it. Then it says, "Don't drink yourself fat," and then it tells you, or it gives you a little tip on how to cut it out, okay, or replace it. Then on the bottom right, it shows an organization pretty similar to our PSA, um, on where to find more information. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch this video. Okay, so the Volkswagen commercial, when they actually released it, it was a mass media campaign, and we'll go over the specifics on that. But then when they were putting down the piano tiles, it was a community-wide campaign. So looking at mass media campaigns first, a lot of times, so these are going to be billboards, maybe magazine pullouts, or commercials. Okay. Now, there's a few different ways on how they're effective. Okay, and you can see this one. It just says "We are designed to move." Looks like it has just like young children, no adults, but basically trying to tell you that your bodies are made to move, so you should move. Okay. Um, the good thing about, or one of the ways that mass media campaigns are effective, is that they reach a large number of people. Most of the time, they have easy to remember slogans. Okay, so they are well remembered. However, most of them don't have enough information or sufficient information. Okay, so behavior change is multi-dimensional, and you all know that, and it's complicated. Um, so there needs to be more information for it to be really meaningful. Another drawback is that it can be expensive. Like Super Bowl commercials are thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. So just think about running, an ad or an intervention in a magazine that's going to be distributed throughout the whole country or world. Can be really expensive. One other drawback is that it might not reach the target audience. So they're going on more for quality or quantity of reaching as many people as they can, hoping that they're going to reach their target audience. Okay, so if they had an intervention that wanted people to stop smoking, um, the smokers would be their target audience, right? And it's kind of a review from our PSA. But if, let's say, they put an ad in a magazine that reaches 1 million people, they're just hoping that smokers are going to be reading that magazine at some point, right? Um, but they might not know that, right? So that's one of the big drawbacks. The next one is community-wide campaign. So this one is on a smaller scale. Um, some examples could be like a fun run, or the adventure races. Um, the Relay for Lives can be considered a community-wide campaign. Maybe farmers markets. Hey, this one in Somerville, they brought in like chefs to teach students how to cook. They brought in like local farmers to teach students how to plant vegetables. They did. They took healthy eating initiatives out on the campus. They built like new parks or got funding for or playground equipment donated, and then they put them up together as a community. Um, so there's a lot of good and bad points of the community wide one. Okay, so first they can reach a large number of people um, in the community. Okay, but a lot of times it's going to be people that are already active or already engaged in that activity. So it's hard to get people to change their behavior and actually participate. And like if you had a fun run, you're going to get some people that never run before, but most of the people running are going to be people that are habitually runners, right, or exercisers. Um, some of the drawbacks is that some of you or most of you helped with the backyard games tournament, which took a lot of planning, right? So a lot of careful planning and coordination and well-trained staff is important to make sure everything's running smoothly, everyone's doing their job, and also a lot of resources. Okay, so being able to find the right people to help run run one of these campaigns is important and may be difficult a lot of times because they're volunteering their time. Um, Typically, the community-wide campaigns are only running like short terms. So it could be just a day or a weekend, right, or maybe a couple days out of the month. So usually they're only short term, which usually leads to being effective short term. So it really depends on what you're doing or what they're learning through that campaign to help them change that behavior. Okay, last one, point of decision prompts. I believe I wrote this on here. So this is something you might see like if you were um, walking into like an office building and then you walk up to the elevator, right? And then this poster might be right on the elevator or right next to it, okay, asking you to take the stairs and save the electricity. Okay, so um, for in ways that it's effective is that it's cheap, right? You can just you can plan out a poster, post it up, get it printed. You can do it really quickly. You don't have to spend a lot of time. You don't have to gather a lot of people, spend a lot of money. Hey, however, one of the drawbacks to that is that anyone can just rip your posters down, so they're only going to remain effective as long as they're up. Okay. It is also effective in a manner that it reaches a target population, right? But it also depends on where you put it. So if you put, this poster at the top of the stairs, the only people that are going to be reading it are the people that are already choosing to take the stairs, and that's not the target audience, right? The target audience is people that are taking the elevator or choosing or about to choose to take the elevator. So depending on the placement, it can be really effective on reaching the target audience. Um, One other one other drawback is that sometimes people aren't going to take the more difficult route, depending on how far, right, or how close they are to the alternate behavior. Okay, so if it's easy for them to get to, if it's quick, it's not going to really deter or mess up their day too much, then most likely they'll do it, right? But if it takes them too far out of their comfort zone or what their daily habitual habits are, then they're going to most likely not do it. Okay, it's going to take them out of their routine too much. However, you can, plant seeds with these. Okay, so these are kind of similar to our PSAs, maybe a little bit more specific, but whatever intervention that you choose to make, which is your next assignment, you want to create a social pressure for someone to do something. Okay, so looking at this poster, the social pressure is for them to not waste electricity, okay, and take the stairs. Okay, so how are you going to socially pressure someone into changing their behavior, right, on the spot or maybe in the future? Okay. One important factor is that you want to be able to instill that feeling or confidence that each individual has control over their own behavior. Okay, so they don't have to take the elevator, they don't have to take the escalator, they don't have to choose a sugary drink. Okay, they have full control over themselves. You can talk about, well, it should either give what the positive consequence would be in the behavior you're trying to get them to do, or engage in, and then possibly negative consequences that they might face if they don't, follow your words or your recommendations. And then there's also, you can use this by giving tips or hints on how simple it is or where they can find more help. Okay. And I did post this whole PowerPoint in the pages presentation files section. Okay, so this is going to be, I know I put TBA, but it's going to be due Friday, March 27th. Okay, so your health intervention is due Friday, March 27th. I'll put, the due date at 11:59 p.m. like always. However, you're going to create an intervention with the informational approach. So that's going to be mass media, community-wide, or point of decision prompt. You're going to use the criteria from this page, okay, as well as this page. So these are the two pages you need to think about or refer to when you're creating your poster. Now you can make your poster electronically, like I made this one, like a half hour or an hour ago, just on Pages or on Word. You can draw it out on a blank sheet of paper and also just take a picture of it and upload it. However, don't use like binder paper, right? So there's 4 sections that I'm going to look for that are contributing to your grade. Up here we have the first easy to remember catchphrase, right? Excess calories can hide anywhere. You see a picture that's eye-catching. Okay, and then you have on the middle right, additional info so they know, okay, I'm looking at the picture. I can see calories can hide anywhere, and then I can see that, hidden in the shadow, there's 230 kilocalories in that Starbucks drink I usually get, and then some helpful hints. So I was like, oh, if I don't want to jog, oh, that's supposed to be jog. Sorry, Emma. There's my first or my one type of the day. But it said to burn off this drink, you have to jog 16 minutes, right, to burn it off, 230 calories. So how many extra calories are you taking in a day, right? Then on the bottom right, it shows where you can find more information, and we already went over this nutrition chapter on the choosemyplate.gov. Okay, so if I can check 4 of those off, it means something. It tells you, or it's giving you either consequences, negative or positive, and trying to get you to do something, and then gives you information to find more for more help. Then you should get a decent grade on this. Okay, so remember, it can be electronic, uploaded electronically, or you can draw it out. Needs to be color if you do draw it out, and upload a picture of it. Okay, or scan it and then upload it. Okay, so make sure you upload it to the assignment section, right? So it's going to be it's going to be under the health intervention poster. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to text or shoot me an email. Thanks.